What if history's greatest conqueror was buried alive? Picture this: Alexander the Great, just 32 years old, at the pinnacle of his power, suddenly collapses after a lavish feast in Babylon. His body burning with fever, his muscles shutting down one by one as his loyal soldiers watch in horror their invincible leader lying motionless yet fully conscious. This is not just another death in history. This is the moment that shattered an empire and changed the course of civilization forever. Alexander ruled over the largest empire the world had ever seen, a vast territory stretching from the shores of Greece to the sands of Egypt and the distant lands of India. His sudden demise sent shock waves across the known world, leaving a power vacuum that would spark decades of conflict and reshape the political landscape of antiquity. But what really happened? In those final moments, what dark forces conspired to bring down the man who seemed unstoppable for centuries? Historians and scholars have debated the true cause of Alexander's death. The classic theories range from sinister plots of poisoning orchestrated by ambitious rivals eager to seize the throne to deadly diseases like malaria or typhoid that perfectly match his reported symptoms. But now a groundbreaking medical theory threatens to turn everything we thought we knew on its head. Enter Guillain Barre syndrome, a rare and terrifying condition that paralyzes the body from the outside in while leaving the mind fully awake and aware. Imagine being trapped inside your own flesh, unable to move or speak as the world around you believes you're dead. This is not the stuff of nightmares, but a very real possibility that could explain one of history's greatest mysteries. The embalming process adds another layer of intrigue to this already perplexing puzzle. Ancient writers recorded that Alexander's body refused to decay for days after his supposed death, describing it as looking perfect, as if he were merely sleeping. Was this a sign that the great conqueror was still clinging to life, even as his empire crumbled around him? But the mystery doesn't end there. In fact, it only deepens, as if vanishing into the mists of time. Alexander's tomb has never been found. Conflicting accounts place his final resting place in Alexandria in Greece, or hidden away in some secret location lost to the ages. This isn't just about a missing grave, it's about the very foundations of our understanding of ancient history and the legacy of one of its most iconic figures. So, was Alexander the Great poisoned by treacherous enemies, struck down by a deadly disease, or entombed alive in a fate more horrifying than we can imagine? The answer lies at the intersection of cutting-edge science, ancient power struggles, and the limits of human knowledge. Our journey begins in the opulent halls of Babylon, where Alexander and his inner circle gathered for what would be his final feast, the air thick with the scent of exotic spices and the sound of laughter. Little did they know that death lurked among them as the night wore on. Alexander suddenly doubled over in pain, clutching his stomach. His closest companions rushed to his side, but it was already too late. The conqueror of the known world had met an enemy he couldn't defeat. Over the next 12 days, Alexander, as condition deteriorated rapidly, his once powerful body now lay still, his voice silenced. But his eyes, those piercing eyes that had stared down kings and armies, remained alert and filled with terror. Was he trying to communicate? Was he aware of everything happening around him as his generals already began to squabble over the fate of his vast empire? To understand the magnitude of this moment, we need to grasp just how vast and diverse Alexander's realm truly was. Let's embark on a whirlwind tour of his conquests. From the sun-baked streets of Alexandria in Egypt to the snow-capped peaks of the Hindu Kush, Alexander had united lands and peoples that had never before been under a single ruler. He had defeated the mighty Persian Empire, outmaneuvered the fierce Scythian horsemen, and pushed his army to the very edges of the known world. But with great power comes great danger, and Alexander had no shortage of enemies. Those who had opposed him in life now saw their chance to strike. Even his own inner circle was not above suspicion. The list of potential poisoners reads like a who's who of the ancient world. Antipater, his regent in Macedonia, Cassander, Antipater's ambitious son, and even Alexander's own wife Roxana, all had motives to see the king fall. Yet poison is just one possibility in this labyrinth of theories. What if nature itself had conspired against the great conqueror? The marshy environs of Babylon were a breeding ground for deadly diseases, malaria with its cycles of fever and chills, or typhoid with its devastating effects on the body, both fit the description of Alexander's final days, but these explanations, while plausible, lack the element of true horror that surrounds this tale. Enter Dr. Catherine Hall, a senior lecturer at the Dunedin School of Medicine in New Zealand. Her revolutionary theory proposes that Alexander fell victim to Guillain Barre syndrome, an autoimmune disorder that causes the body's immune system to attack its own nerves. This condition can lead to total paralysis while leaving the mind intact, a living nightmare that could explain the seemingly miraculous preservation of Alexander's body. Imagine the scene: Alexander lying motionless on his deathbed, his generals gathered around him declaring their leader dead, but inside that still form Alexander's brilliant mind races trapped, unable to cry out or even blink as the world moves on without him. This is not just a medical diagnosis, it's a scenario straight out of our darkest fears. The mystery deepens when we consider the accounts of Alexander's body after death. Ancient historians like Plutarch wrote that his corpse showed no signs of decay for days after his supposed passing in the sweltering heat of Babylon. This defiance of nature was seen as a divine sign, but what if it was evidence of something far more earthly and terrifying? What if Alexander was still alive as they prepared to entomb him? As news of Alexander's death spread across his vast empire, chaos erupted. His generals immediately began jockeying for position, each seeking to carve out their own piece of the world Alexander had conquered. The Macedonian army, once a unified force of unstoppable might, now fractured into rival factions. But amidst this political turmoil, a question lingered: where would the body of the world's greatest conqueror be laid to rest? Some accounts claim that a magnificent funeral procession set out from Babylon, bound for Alexander's homeland of Macedonia. Others insist that he was entombed in Alexandria, the great Egyptian city that bore his name. But despite centuries of searching, no trace of Alexander's final resting place has ever been found. It's as if the earth itself had swallowed him whole, leaving us with nothing but questions. This is where our tale transforms from mere historical inquiry into a modern-day treasure hunt. Archaeologists, historians, and adventure seekers have scoured the globe, searching for any clue that might lead them to Alexander's lost tomb. Each new discovery, from ancient texts to suspicious mounds in the desert, ignites a fresh wave of excitement and speculation, but the ultimate prize remains elusive, taunting us from across the centuries. So what are we left with? A conqueror at the height of his power, struck down in his prime, a body that refused to decay, a tomb that vanished without a trace. These are the ingredients of a mystery that has captivated the world for over 2,000 years. But it's more than just a historical puzzle. It's a window into the nature of power, the fragility of empires, and the eternal human struggle against our own mortality. As we stand here today, peering back through the mists of time, we must ask ourselves: was Alexander the victim of political intrigue, felled by an assassin's poison? Was he claimed by one of the myriad diseases that plagued the ancient world? Or did he suffer a fate far worse, entombed alive, fully aware as the darkness closed in around him? The truth may be lost to history, but the quest to uncover it continues to drive us forward, pushing the boundaries of science and challenging our understanding of the past. In the end, perhaps the greatest legacy of Alexander the Great is not the empire he built or the battles he won, but the enduring mystery of his death. It reminds us that even the mightiest among us are subject to the whims of fate, and that the search for knowledge is a journey without end. So the next time you hear the name Alexander the Great, remember that behind the legends and the glory lies a tale of intrigue, suspense, and horror that continues to captivate the world millennia after its final chapter was written.